Seriously, you're such a dawdler. Hurry up and go. How long are you gonna be there? I'm just getting ready. Is that an excuse? It's just soup, for Pete's sake. It's really not like that. Don't talk back to me. I was just trying to share some soup with our friendly neighbor. And yet, my husband's unreasonable behavior continues. If you look closely, his eyes aren't even focused. Isn't there any booze? Huh? It's still noon, though. So what? Do you have it or not? Well, there are some, but you bought it yourself yesterday. To think he bought it himself last night. And now he's forgotten. He's been restless since he woke up this morning. Eventually, he opens a 16-ounce beer can and downs it in one go. Beer's the best, isn't it? Want some? I'm okay, thanks. Such a cold woman. Well, come here. As I sit next to my husband as he asks. He pulls me closer, but it hurts more than I expected. That's kind of painful. What? No, it's not. I also thought I smelled something other than alcohol. I wanted to get away from there. I'm gonna go over to the neighbors. Then go quickly. I'll want your company when you get back. Okay, I'll go. Feeling it was unsafe to stay any longer, I hurried to the neighbor's house. I press the doorbell and wait. As the front door opens, I made too much soup. I was about to hand over the Tupperware of soup when... What are you doing? Suddenly, I'm pulled into the house. 2 seconds later, I feel the blood drain from my face, turning pale. I feel a sense of fear towards my husband and a strong resolve to make him pay for everything he's done to me. My name is Sally, and I grew up in a place surrounded by farms. Now, I work as an office assistant in a small construction company run by my parents. Being in the countryside, most of my friends have moved to the city. Could it be, Ken? Sally! Long time no see. Ken and I would later become husband and wife. Like others, he moved to the city right after graduating high school. Why are you here? When did you come back? Well, a lot has happened. It had been almost 10 years since we last met in high school. Never thought I'd run into you in front of the station like this. Me neither. Are you heading home from work? Yeah. For me, who had a secret crush on him in high school, it was an unexpectedly happy event. Hey, if you've got some time later, how about we grab a bite to eat? Sure. Great. Let's go then. We moved to a nearby pub and caught up on each other's lives. Ken had been working in construction after leaving our hometown, while also trying hard to make a major debut with his band. Chasing dreams in the big city is a common tale, but back then, I thought it was pretty cool. So, what are you up to these days, Sally? I'm working as an office assistant at my parents' company. Wow, that's impressive. So, you're like the boss's daughter, huh? It's not that big of a deal. Ken kept asking about my job. Maybe he was interested because he had done similar work before. I optimistically thought so. After that, we spent a fun couple of hours and then parted ways. On my way home, I hoped we would meet again. Hey! Thinking someone was calling me, I turned around and there was Ken. This was 2 days after we reunited. Huh? Aren't you working today? Oh, yeah, I'm off today. All right. I remembered Ken saying he was working for a seniors plumbing company. Want to go out for drinks again? Yeah. I'll contact you after work. All right, looking forward to it. We started seeing each other more frequently. 2 months after our reunion, Ken confessed his feelings for me. Of course, I immediately said yes, and we started dating. Naturally, we began to think about marriage. After dating for about half a year, we got married. The following year brought even more joy. Really? Are you sure? Of course. It's for my daughter getting married. I can do at least this much. Thank you. My father surprised us with a gift of a new house. A new house? Seriously? It's amazing, right? Let's keep supporting each other. Absolutely. Let's build a happy home together. I only imagined a happy future. Indeed, for about 3 years after our marriage, everything went smoothly. The couple living next door were newlyweds like us, and we quickly became friends. The wife's name was Lisa, and she was about 3 years older than me. Really? Is it okay to accept so much? It's fine. We can't finish it all by ourselves anyway. That's the same with us. How about we share our excess cooking with each other? That sounds like a great idea. I'd love to. We were building a good relationship. The sense of unease began one morning. Huh? You're off today, too? Yeah, I'm off. It must be nice to have so many days off. Yeah, well. So, I went to work, but during lunch break, when I went out for lunch with a colleague, this happened. Hey, isn't that your husband standing over there? Where? Look, over at that intersection. When I looked in the direction my colleague was pointing, sure enough, there was Ken. But it wasn't just him, there was an unfamiliar woman standing next to him. Who's that with him? Do you not know her? No, I don't. I wanted to run over there immediately, but they disappeared into the crowd, and I lost sight of them. Are you okay? Sort of. We better hurry, lunch break is almost over. Of course, I wasn't okay. I didn't want to bother my colleague anymore, so I pretended to be calm. I couldn't concentrate on work for the rest of the afternoon and went home still feeling unsettled. Ken wasn't home yet, so I waited for him to return. I'm home! Welcome back. Where were you? He seemed unusually cheerful. Oh, just out with a friend. Really? I thought I saw someone who looked like Ken around lunchtime. I deliberately asked in a vague way. Because I wanted to see Ken's reaction. I saw him with a woman. Maybe I was mistaken? That must be a mistake. I was with a guy. That was clearly a lie. At that moment, I thought he must be cheating. Even though I knew it was a lie, having little experience in love, I didn't know what to do. Should I confront him more directly? I decided to discuss it with a colleague later. You definitely should tell him. It's you who's suffering. You're right. But how should I bring it up? I've been cheated on before, too. If you're firm about it, you can handle it. You just casually dropped a bombshell. Well, it's in the past. What happened to that person? He's my current husband. What? I was surprised, but her words somehow made me feel lighter. Trusting my colleague, I decided to talk to Ken about it that night. While waiting nervously for him to come home, I noticed a strong smell. What's the smell? It was a mix of several scents, like perfume and tobacco. What's up? Is something wrong? Don't you smell it? It's really strong. I don't really notice. If anything, it's a nice smell. I wondered what kind of senses he had. There were many things I was curious about, but I decided to ask about the other day first. If I missed this chance, I felt like I might never ask again. About the other day. The other day? You know, when you are seen with someone. What about it? You're not cheating, right? What? I told you I was with a guy that day. But that day, I was with a colleague. We saw you with a woman. Then Ken, who had been sitting on the sofa, stood up and approached me. Don't you believe my words? He said, grabbing my shoulder. His grip was so strong, I couldn't escape. Hey, let go! Then promise you'll never say such things again, okay? Okay, I promise. I had no choice but to comply when he said that. I had never felt such fear towards Ken before. And this was just the beginning. That night, for the first time since getting married, I spent the night on the sofa. I was too scared to be in the same room with him. When I woke up in the morning, Ken looked as if nothing had happened, fresh-faced. I didn't know how to address his change of demeanor. "Why are you sleeping here? Did something happen?" "Huh?" I thought it must be a joke. He seemed like he didn't remember anything. "Why are you looking so shocked? Don't you remember what happened last night?" "Last night?" Ken didn't seem like he was lying. Confused, I left the house in a daze. Then, my neighbor Lisa spoke to me. "Sally? Good morning. You look a bit down. Is everything okay?" "Just going through some stuff," I said with a forced smile. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here for you." "Thank you, I appreciate it." Lisa was kind, but I couldn't possibly tell her everything. I hadn't even sorted it out myself. I went to work as usual. Then, I heard some disturbing news from a colleague. "Really? Is that true?" "I heard it from another colleague." "In such a small town?" "Maybe that's why. Thought it wouldn't get out?" According to my colleague, someone in our town was arrested for using drugs. Apparently brought in from overseas. Once you get involved with such things, your life can crumble easily. When I returned home from work, I told Ken about it. "If you get involved with that stuff, it's over, right?" "Yeah, I guess. But to think there are such people in our small town." "Right." Ken weakly smiled. That night, he went to bed earlier than usual. After about 3 days, I noticed a change in Ken. He seemed to revert back to his old self before we were married. "How about we go out for dinner? It's been a while." "Sure, but what's gotten into you?" "Well, we haven't been out much recently. A change would be nice, right?" "Yeah, let's go." Since then, Ken has been more attentive than ever. While it was nice, he started checking even my smallest actions. "I'm just going out to do some shopping." "Where are you going?" "Just, you know, the usual place." "The usual? Which place?" "Huh?" "The supermarket near the station." "I see. Be back in 15 minutes. "That's impossible." "Just do as I say." I felt like all my movements were being watched. This kind of behavior continued, and if I was even a minute late, he would explode in anger, denying my very personality. I couldn't stand it and talked back. "Why do you have to say things like that? What did I even do?" "Just do what you're told." "Then tell me why." When I asked, Ken seemed uncomfortable and tried to end the conversation. Such a hassle. "Fine, leave it then." "The conversation isn't over." Ken ignored me and, unbelievably, left the house. He didn't return that day. In the end, his kindness was only for a brief moment before returning to his usual self. In fact, things got worse. He came back 2 days later demanding money. "Can you lend me some money?" "What? Why should I? You have your own salary." "Come on, I'll definitely pay you back." "Okay." "How much?" $500. "What do you need it for?" "That's various things. I have my own commitments. As a couple, I couldn't just lend money without knowing what it was for." "Sorry, I can't lend it to you." "Just lend it to me." Then Ken grabbed my arm, restraining me from escaping. "If you won't give me the money, I can just ask your rich parents." "I can't do that." Ken thought for a moment and then smirked. "Maybe I'll ask them directly. Isn't that a good idea?" "Stop it! I don't want to bother my parents." "Then you know what to do, right?" "But I don't have the money on me." "If you don't have it, just withdraw it. I'll wait for 10 minutes. Even running, it was barely possible to reach the nearest ATM. He knew that and said it anyway. "If you're late, I'll call your parents right away." I shook off Ken's arm and hurried to the ATM. Realizing too late I was barefoot. ignoring the stares of passersby. I withdrew $500 and returned home. There, I found strangers in the house. Who are these people? These guys are my friends. Ken's friends gave off the worst first impression. Their clothes were torn and yellowed, as if worn for days without change. But the real problem was the smell. It was the same scent I had smelled once before, making me nauseous. Where's the $500? Here it is. I handed over the money, and they snatched it without a thank you. Thanks. This should help. Ken started drinking with his friends, smiling. I could only stand there, watching the scene unfold. What? Are you still here? I don't need you anymore. Do whatever you want. This is my house, too. It's my house as well. Not wanting to stay another second, I left the house. Having nowhere in particular to go, I aimlessly wandered around. Exhausted, I sat down on a bench in a small park. I wonder how things ended up like this. I thought as I looked up at the twinkling stars, their beauty taking my breath away. As I was contemplating what to do next, someone spoke to me. Looking towards the darkness, there was Lisa. What are you doing out here? Just, dealing with some stuff. Lisa quietly sat next to me, not asking any more than that. Her silence was her own way of showing kindness. Feeling that, I naturally started to open up. So, all that happened? Yeah. You should have come to me sooner. I thought I'd be a burden because you're so kind. Not at all. Under the cold night sky, she patiently listened to all my worries and complaints without showing any sign of annoyance. I'd never shared so much with anyone before. It felt somewhat relieving to let it all out. But what should I do now? It might sound harsh, but maybe you should consider divorce. I guess you're right. I'm sure it's for the best. I couldn't dismiss Lisa's well-thought-out advice. We ended up talking for over an hour. I'm sorry to keep you out this late. Don't worry about it. You're an important friend to me. Thank you. Do you want to go home together? No, I think I'll stay out a little longer. Okay, just be careful, it's late. With that, we parted ways. I then aimlessly walked around the busy streets near the station before heading home. Quietly opening the door, I noticed the shoes and Ken's friends were gone. Feeling slightly relieved, I entered the living room, only for Ken to grab my arm. I lost my balance and hit my head on the corner of the table. Ouch! Touching my head, I felt something wet and sticky. Ken, unconcerned, was just smoking a cigarette. Was he trying to calm himself down? At that moment, I realized I could no longer expect anything from him. Alone, I went to the hospital, still pressing my head. Thank you. If you want, we can contact the police. No, it's okay. I'll handle this myself. All right, but just in case, take this. The doctor handed me a medical report. It could be useful in case of an emergency. The preparation was now underway. Going to the hospital is an overreaction. A lick would heal that. It's your fault this happened. You could have broken your fall. You're so clumsy. Don't you realize the gravity of what you've done? So annoying. Talking to you just irritates me. Is that why you'll hit me again? What? At that point, I had no more reservations about Ken. I started preparing for a divorce in earnest. There was hardly any love left for Ken. Just so you know, if something similar happens again, I have my plans. What's that supposed to mean? I don't need to tell you. Next time, it won't just be a small injury, you know? Ken raised his arm as if to hit me. But I stayed put, gathering all my courage. Running away would just repeat the cycle. Then, Ken lowered his arm and left the house without a word. My legs trembled slightly from relief. That was really scary. After that, Ken stopped coming home. It seems that sometimes he comes back home, but it always happens when I'm not there. It was on a day I left work early due to feeling unwell. When I got home, Ken was there, but his appearance left me speechless.
What are you doing?
Huh?
What happened to you?
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
Ken had lost so much weight, I barely recognized him. His cheeks were hollow, and there were dark circles under his eyes. It was clearly not normal. Then, something occurred to me to ask.
Hey, what about your job?
My job?
Are you not going to work?
I am going to work. It's none of your business.
Worrying about you is natural, isn't it? Shouldn't you go to a doctor first?
Ken showed a strong aversion to the mention of a hospital. At that time, I thought I was not a child anymore. If I had confronted the situation more seriously, maybe I could have prevented what happened next. Then, one day, I finished work early and got home sooner than usual. I thought Ken wouldn't be home, so I entered the living room.
Wake up!
Ken was asleep on the sofa. Then I immediately noticed something odd in the room. Camila, is that you? He muttered someone else's name.
Who's Camila? My name is Sally, remember?
Sally. Ken suddenly sat up.
Did someone visit?
No, I was alone.
That's a lie. There are 2 cups on the table. They weren't there this morning.
Oh, a friend came over. I bombarded him with questions.
Then who's this Camila you mentioned? Explain to me.
Must have been a dream or something.
It sounds like you're talking about someone else.
What's it to you? Why don't you just say it?
Are you cheating on me?
The thought crossed my mind, recalling the woman I had seen him with downtown before. Just because there are 2 cups, you say that? Ken seemed to be trying to brush it off. I decided to test him.
But there's lipstick on the rim of one of the cups.
No, that can't be. I wiped it clean. Oops, my bad. Looks like I was mistaken.
You tricked me?
Don't say such awful things. You exposed yourself without any help from me. Realizing he couldn't escape it, Ken hung his head.
This was just a moment of folly. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Forgive you. Despite my surprise at his quick change of heart, I hoped he would really change. But my forgiveness didn't mean everything was resolved. My mind was made up. I decided to get it in writing.
What's this?
I want you to write down that you cheated and sign it. With this, you won't be able to do such things again, right?
Okay, I understand.
Now, I had what I needed to move forward with a divorce. A few days later, I discovered a shocking secret about my husband. I had no idea he was involved in such things. I had never been more disgusted with my own ignorance. That day, I was preparing to share some leftover soup with Lisa, our neighbor. Ken woke up. I tried to ignore him. Because he had come home late last night and had been drinking heavily.
What are you doing?
I thought I'd share some with a neighbor. Such a pointless thing. It's not causing you any trouble, is it? While I continued my preparations.
Seriously, you're such a drag. Just go already. How long are you gonna stay there? I'm getting ready right now.
Is that your excuse? It's just soup, for goodness sake.
It's really not. Don't talk back to me.
I couldn't understand why he was so upset. Or maybe I didn't want to understand. His eyes weren't even focused. Isn't there any booze?
What? It's still daytime.
So what? Is there any or not?
There is, but you bought it yourself last night.
He had forgotten he bought it himself the night before. He had been restless since the morning. Eventually, he opened a can of beer and chugged it. Nothing beats a beer. You want some? I'm fine. You're so cold. Well, Come sit next to me. At Ken's insistence, I sat down next to him. He pulled me closer, but his grip was so strong it hurt.
Hey, that hurts.
What? No, it doesn't. I also thought I smelled something strange, not like alcohol. I wanted to get away from there.
I'm going to the neighbors.
Then go, but when you come back, you're keeping me company.
Okay, I'll be back.
Feeling it was unsafe to stay, I quickly headed to the neighbor's house. I rang the doorbell and waited for Lisa to answer. As the door opened, I made too much soup. I was about to hand over the Tupperware of soup when suddenly,
What are you doing?
she pulled me inside the house. I lost my balance and fell forward, spilling the soup. Your husband, Ken, he's messing with drugs.
What?
Hearing those words made my blood run cold.
What do you mean by that?
Lisa looked startled. Oh, sorry for scaring you. Are you hurt?
No, I'm okay.
We need to clean this up. After cleaning the spilled soup, I had to ask about the drugs.
So, about the drugs.
Come here. Lisa led me out of the house, cautiously checking our surroundings, to a hedge between our homes.
This spot?
It was a hedge located right between the houses. Yes, there's a small gap here. I could see into your house from here. I know it's wrong, but...
You saw from here?
Lisa nodded silently. Indeed, you can see my living room from here. That's when it happened. Ken got up and went somewhere, returning quickly with something in his hand.
Lisa, look.
What? We peeked and saw him taking something like a pill. It was a decisive moment. I was too shocked to move or react. Then Lisa said, We should call the police. Yeah, you're right. I borrowed Lisa's smartphone to call the police. Soon after, the police arrived. They listened to our story and stormed into the house. Ken, confused by the sudden appearance of the police, tried to resist and escape, but he was outnumbered.
Cut the crap. Let me go.
Just calm down and cooperate. Shouts and commotion could be heard from inside the house. After a while, Ken was brought out in handcuffs, cursing at me. Did you do this? So what if I did? You're the one in the wrong for doing all this in secret.
You're kidding me.
I regretted ever trusting this man. It would be best if he were taken away quickly. Just take him away, please. He seemed quite agitated, likely due to the influence of drugs, and didn't fully grasp the situation he was in. I watched as he was put into the police car and taken to the station. Are you okay? Yes. Watching him being taken away made me feel strangely calm. What will you do now? I'm going to go through with the divorce, like you suggested before, Lisa. I have everything I need for it now. That's... You look so strong. The next day, the police called to inform me that Ken had tested positive for drug use. Of course, this meant arrest. And his crimes didn't stop there. Then came the chance to visit him. You know why I'm here, right? Yeah, I get it. Ken then began to explain why he got involved with drugs. I told you about my band in New York, right? At first, things were going well, but after 5 years, our fan base dwindled, and it got tough. Apparently, the band's activities, which had been going smoothly, became challenging after 5 years as the fan base gradually decreased. We bought it from a dealer we met at a club, just out of curiosity. That's where it all started. I see. So you just tried it and ended up here? At first, I was too scared to even touch it. I just kept it. Kept it. Yeah. But then the band broke up. Jobs weren't going well. That's when I really started using it. Even if he hadn't used it initially, buying it was a step towards his downfall. I came back to this small town to try and quit. I thought there'd be no temptation here. But you couldn't stop, could you? I really did want to quit. Now, I don't know what he felt back then. My mind is made up. Well, I'm going to divorce you, and you'll pay for your other crimes too. Crimes? Yes. I'll be seeking damages for your assault on me. You don't have any gratitude towards me? Maybe I did once, but not anymore. Sorry. Bye. I stood up, waved at Ken, and left the visiting room. I'll never forget the look of despair on his face that day. He should live with the weight of his crimes. Whether he realizes it or not is another matter. Eventually, Ken's friends who had been at our house were also arrested. The woman he was cheating with, Camila, was also involved with drugs. It was a complete roundup. What happened after that? I got the divorce finalized without any trouble. I made sure to claim plenty of damages. Good for you, Sally. But I learned a lot from all this. According to the testimonies of Ken's friends, he married me for money. Remembering that my father was a company president and wanted to use me for his own gain. It's chilling to think what might have happened if this had continued. But it worked out, right? Now I'm going to live for myself. I'm here today because of you, Lisa. Let's keep in touch. Of course, we'll always be friends. Ken was released, but he couldn't lead a normal life anymore. He became a local scandal and moved away soon after. I suspect he might fall back into old habits. As for me, I still live in that house. Despite the bad memories with Ken, Lisa has been good to me. I'm ready to live a long life on my own, but I'm not afraid. I'm actually looking forward to it.